Hey guys, Haley here with How to Haley, and today I'm going to be going over how you can make this gorgeous tufted headboard yourself. It's a great weekend project, took me a little less than 5 hours, budget was a little under $200. So what you're going to need supply-wise is a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood cut down to 80 by 40, at least that's what I did for my king size bed. I liked the 2-to-1 ratio and that fit in my car, was also the right width considering the width of my fabric. So I had just enough to pull over and staple. You'll need 2 packs of project foam, 2 inches thick, 24 inches wide by 72 inches long, 3 yards of 10-ounce batting, so that's about 3/4 inches thick of batting, 3 to 3.5 yards of fabric. Do yourself a favor if you can and get the 3.5 yards. I was cutting it really close with the 3 yards that I had. You'll also need 1/2 inch staples for your staple gun, 25 or more number 10 3/4 inch screws and washers, and 25 plus some extra for good measure 3/4 inch covered buttons, and a 30-inch French cleat. Tools you're gonna need are a jigsaw, drill, staple gun, and a glue gun. So without further ado, let's hop into this project. 5 years ago for Christmas, I made a queen size one, and in October we updated our bed to a king. We have a Casper Wave hybrid, and I absolutely recommend it. If you have questions about that, let me know. But I've been really missing my headboard, so I'm recreating the same look with a couple improvements for my king bed. Step 1 is picking up a piece of 3/4 inch plywood from the hardware store. I got a middle of the road piece, so not the cheapest, not the higher end. This is about $35. And hi Oliver. I had them cut it down to the size I need, which is 80 inches wide, which is a little bit wider than my bed, which measured at 76 inches, and 40 inches tall. The reason for 40 inches is, one, I like that it's a half, it's exactly half the measurement of the width, and also that fits nicely in my car, so I didn't have to try to mooch a truck. Next, I designed the template. I used Christmas wrapping paper, the really tall ones, and that's exactly 40 inches on the roll. And it has the 1-inch grid line on the back, which makes it really, really convenient. I walked around the house, found various circles of different sizes to figure out the shape that I wanted. The center is my son's 24-inch hula hoop, and the sides are a cake pan. So draw that out. I have marked 24 inches from the bottom because my foam that I'll be using is 24 inches. So I wanted the bottom to be a solid sheet, and then the top will give us some wiggle room here. And then play around with where you want your grid marks. For my king size bed, I have the up and down tufting points spaced out at 15 inches. So from here to here, it's 15 inches. And then you do a polka dot pattern. So 7.5 inches down, you're gonna do another point. And left to right, I spaced them out 12 inches because I wanted diamond shapes instead of square. Okay, then mark those really clear on your paper. I drew my tufting grid just so I could visualize what it looks like. Do this in pencil because you will change your mind a couple times. Then cut it out. You're gonna tape it onto your board. You'll mark the center line of your board and then tape it onto that. And then trace it out like I have here. Then the next step is we're gonna drill the pilot holes. So I just have, I believe this is a 1/8 inch bit, and you're gonna go through everywhere you've marked and drill a little pilot hole. Next is the fun part. So I'm gonna take my jigsaw and cut out our shape. And make sure it's away from your table so you don't hack into your table too much. Just grab a rag, get all your dust off. Next, we're gonna put the foam down. So this is called Project Foam. I got it from Joann's. It is outrageously expensive full price. I think it was like 60 bucks for a 2-inch by 24 by 72. This is not that green high density stuff. That stuff's even more expensive. Anyway, I got it on sale for half off and then an extra 20% off coupon, so it wasn't terrible. Hobby Lobby had the same thing, but it was by 76 inches, regular priced, I think around 30, so that would have been a cheaper option. But you want 2-inch foam. It's very staticky. Now, notice I said that this is by 72 inches, so we're gonna have some extra that we'll have to stick on one of the ends. I'm going to put it on the end my husband will be sleeping on. Okay, typically with foam, if you want it to really stick, you need to get specialty foam adhesive. I am just needing it to stick enough to hold it in place so I can put my batting on. I don't need it to stick forever. Once you get all your tufts in place, your foam's not going to go anywhere. Okay, like all good projects, there is room for error. This did not work as I thought it would. I also did not want to shell out 20 bucks for a can of foam spray paint or spray glue. So, staple gun it is. So I'm just gonna go in at the kind of at the edges, staple it down, hold it in place. Now notice I'm not going straight through the top, I'm going in from the sides. So then it won't really be noticed once we upholster it. I am going to, before I do the top, I'm gonna cut off the last little bit for this side, because if I need to move it over and have the rounded areas have a little section that I have to piece in, that's a lot easier than piecing in a large section. X-Acto knife, line it up, cut it out. And tack that one down. Now for the top. So that is in, except the top is still free floating. That's okay. I am going to do a through the top punch, which I can pull out later. This is just so I can flip it. Okay, grab your X-Acto knife and you're gonna cut out the shape of the foam, following the shape of your wood board. This I have found is the easiest method for doing these shapes. And again, beauty of this project, doesn't need to be perfect. If you have an electric carving knife, this will make your job a lot easier. My mom has one, but we have no clue where it's at. And I'm too impatient to wait until it's found. Hack job. Perfect. Perfect enough. And we're gonna flip it back over another time. You're gonna need your template and some tape again. Paint this down over the foam. Now you're going to take your Sharpie and just mark where your pilot holes were drilled. Next, we are going to pre-drill holes in our foam, and this helps it go deep. I don't know, it just makes it a better look. When I did this the first time, we took a old broom handle actually, and cut it off, sharpened it. It was a really ghetto looking shiv. These are hanging bars for our closet system. This is just an extra piece. It's pretty sharp. So I'm going to just cut off the plastic from the outside, and then I'll use this to cut my holes. Really sophisticated here, guys. Then you're going to line this up with the holes you just marked and just twist until you hit wood. Pull it out, and now you have a borehole, and inside you have your pre-drilled pilot hole. Okay, you're gonna do this for all of your points. It's like packing peanuts. Now that you have your holes cut out, we are going to get ready to put on the batting. So I'm going to actually set this aside, lay down the batting on my table, flip this back over it, and then I'm going to start stapling. This is the batting. This is batting again from Joann's. It's on sale for half off, so I got it for $5 a yard. It's pretty thick, so this is a 10-ounce batting. It's about, I would say, 3/4 of an inch thick. You can use thinner batting, but you'll have to do more layers. I got 3.5 yards, so we have wiggle room. And it is 48 inches wide, so that's another reason that I did my headboard at 40.
Ooh, nanny.
Does this look like a blanket? I did it at 40, so I have enough wiggle room to pull the batting around. So lay this flat on your surface, then go get your headboard, you're gonna lay it on top, and then we'll start stapling this on. Okay, so I have my batting down. I have my headboard with the foam on, face down on the batting. Just line it up to make sure you have enough slack to pull over and staple, and then just go around and staple. I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way up. So you pull it around and just stick a couple staples in. I like to stay about 1/2 inch from the edge of my wood. And do this every couple of inches. Sorry, it's getting really cold out here. Now that I've got the top and the bottom and sides done, I'm going to start on the top and work my way toward the corners.
Mama, Baba. Mama, Baba.
Is that Mommy's water?
Mine.
It's yours. So when doing your edges of your circle areas, you want to space your staples out a little further apart to start, at least. And when you get to your corner, you're going to cut your batting all the way down to the front where the foam is. Then pull that really tight and staple it down. This will give you a really sharp corner when you're upholstering. All right, so the reason we started spaced out is that then gives us an opportunity to go in between our original staples and evenly pull it around the circle. All right, so when we get to this curve, again, we're gonna cut it to about the center of the curve, all the way down to the foam, and staple, pull tight and staple on either side of that. Okay. Let me trim off the excess here so you can see better what I'm doing. So I have a couple points spaced apart, then go in between them and pull it tight. Lots of staples. And these are just Fiskars titanium scissors. I get these at Joann's in a 2-pack, usually when they're on sale for regularly $20, I get them for $10 for 2 pairs of great scissors. Not what I usually use on fabric, but for fabric-esque and crafting things, these are my go-tos. So to do a corner, you are going to actually go from the center point diagonal away from it and pull, staple that down. Okay, then you're gonna have these like corner excess. You are going to fold those over on top of our corner flat part and staple those down really well. And then go ahead and trim off the excess of that first one to reduce bulk. And then do the same thing on the other side. You will overlap and staple that down. Now that you have all of your batting stapled, go ahead and trim off the excess, not too close to your staples because you don't want to lose the integrity of how tight you pulled it. So give yourself about 1 inch of overhang. All right, and there you have it. We have our batting stapled. There is one more step in preparation to do. So we're gonna flip this over again and just snip the batting where we had bored out the holes in the foam. Now I'm going to grab my template and mark where those holes were again. And then just do a little snip in the batting. I could feel around for where the bored holes were, but this batting, it's kind of deceiving. So it's a lot easier just to mark it and go. All right, so I have my points marked. Now I'm going to, and I just kind of roughly marked them using the template. I'm just gonna use the tip of the scissors, feel around approximately where that point is, see if I can find the bored hole. And I'm just going to stab the scissors through that and spread it around. This is gonna stretch the batting. So when we tuft it, the batting moves with us. All right, there you have it. All of the prep work is done. Next step is going to be the fabric. I'm gonna go inside and give my boys some dinner and work on the rest of this indoors because it's getting pretty chilly out here. Okay, so I've brought everything inside where it's a little bit warmer and brighter, and now I'm going to do the fun part, which is the upholstery. The winner of the Facebook poll was the velvet upholstery fabric, which to be honest was what I was leaning toward, and I already own this one. I got it for $7 a yard. It was a value fabric at Joann's, gosh, back in October when we first got the king size bed. Life just has been really crazy since then. And yeah, so I already own it. When I first got it though, I'm like, I love the look, but it's so stiff and it's not quite right. So I figured I have nothing left to lose, so let's throw it in the wash. And wow, it like completely transformed the fabric. It got out all of the manufacturer creases, like how they have it folded in half on the bolts, and just really softened it up. I mean, it looks so much better. I wish I had a sample of the before, but I only have 3 yards, so there is no wiggle room of waste on this. Get yourself 3.5 yards to be safe if you can. And then I can go and return the other fabric, which is going to be great. I've got this started so far. I have our first tuft in. To start with your fabric, you're going to fold it in half and grab a Sharpie and mark your salvage edge, the center point of your fabric. And then staple the top center down so you make sure that you have enough fabric to wrap around and to keep it in place from slipping. And then we're going to work from the top center, work our way down. I want to make sure that as I'm doing this, that it doesn't pull funny. I want it to sit very nicely on the fabric without having like, I don't know how to describe it. There are actually lots of tutorials that I have seen that the tufts pull and squish the foam. It looks very unnatural. I want this to be very flowy and a little more structure. I don't want it just to be a wrinkle. I want to have them folded a little bit, and you'll see as I go along. So how we're gonna do the tufts, this is the really convenient part. So far I'm about 2 hours into the project. And how we did the tufts last time I did this was we had a great big huge, I'm talking like 8-inch long upholstery needle and some cording. We fed it through a couple squares of the fabric to prevent the cord from just like pulling through. And fed that through and then stapled the star pattern on the back. And it just was really cumbersome because you have to have this upright and it takes 2 people, or you can do it with one, but it's a lot easier with 2 because you have one person playing with how they want the tufts to look and the other person is pulling on the cord. It was really cumbersome. So I've done a lot of research on a different technique, and that is using screws to do your tufts. So I have some number 10 Phillips head screws and some flat washers. You're gonna feed the washer through, and this will help the fabric have more stability so it doesn't just like pull through the screw. And then these are a 1-inch screw, and I probably should have done 3/4, but we'll make this work. This is also a coarse screw. You can do either coarse or like super fine where there's more, I'm forgetting the word, where they're really close together. These are more far apart so they have spaced out gripping, because this is gonna have a lot of tension against it. All right, so to do this, and there's no going back. Once you screw into the fabric, that's its home forever. You've made that hole. So get your fabric where you want it. You're gonna poke it through the bored holes and feel around for the pilot holes we drew very early on, and then stick the screw in there. And it takes a little bit of patience, but you'll find it. Okay, push down, grab your drill. Hope that you don't lose the pilot hole. There you go. And very slowly, so you need to make sure you push all the way to the wood, otherwise your fabric's gonna get caught. And very slowly, you're gonna start drilling into the fabric and the pilot hole. Okay, and don't screw it in all the way, because that'll be the last part. You wanna have some wiggle room to play with how your pleats look. Okay, so that one's in. And again, we're trying to stay centered because this does have a grain line to it. You want to make sure it doesn't get off. So staying centered, here's my center point, here's my center tuft. Pull that in, get another screw ready. Have the center in, yay, okay. So now we're gonna start from the bottom and work our way out on the side diamonds here. Okay, so I have the side diamonds done. Now I'm going to work down and out again and do these 2 diamonds, and then we will move back up to the top and just keep working that motion. Okay, so I have this half done. Now I am going to do the same process on the other side. It's looking really, really good. I love it. Okay, so I have all of my tufts in, and I'm in love. I'm so excited. So now I'm going to go through, I'm just gonna start at the bottom, it doesn't really matter. Just start in the center and pin and tuck things where I want them to, fold them over and staple from bottom up. Okay, and just keep pulling and tucking and stapling all the way around. This is not our final staple of the back part. This is just to hold all of your pleats that you want to continue off the edge, to hold them in place, and then we'll flip this over and do a final staple of everything. So I'll give you an up close look of how I'm doing this. I have all of my folds going down. And I'm kind of just following the natural line here. And since we didn't screw all of these points down completely, it gives me the opportunity to play with our folds. So to do these other parts, so this is the point between the two curves. First, you're going to figure out where your fabric meets up. And I designed my template that this is actually a point right at the corner of where the two circles meet. Play with these a little bit. Have them overlap just slightly. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to snip this fabric so I have room to play. But don't go too far, otherwise you're going to be grumpy when you can't staple it underneath. Over here where our curve dips down, I'm going to do a similar thing of trimming the fabric to the deepest part of the curve. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just trim off a lot of this excess. So play with your tucks again. My tuck is going to go just past the deepest part. So I'm going to come here and snip this probably about 1 inch away from the wood. And this gives my fabric an opportunity to pull how I want it to. And to do a corner, I also designed it so that these tucks would go right to a corner. So I'm going to come from the center of this point, go around and just staple that down. Gonna wiggle this until the crease lines exactly with my corner. Okay. So first I'm going to staple down this side, so the bottom. So basically, by bottom I mean the crease is going to go over that. So then I'm going to wrap this around, pull it tight, and staple it down. And that's that. I have the edges tacked down. We'll flip it over in a minute and thoroughly get it where we want it to. I'm just going to go through and pull and tuck to make sure everything is perfect, and then I'm going to tighten up these bolts. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I should have gotten 3/4 inch instead of 1 inch screws. They are poking through just a little bit, so it's really not a huge deal, but I'm just gonna go through and hammer the screws a little bit to soften up the point so they don't like destroy my wall or hurt anyone. Now is the finishing touches here. So we're gonna go through and finish pulling our upholstery fabric over. Where you have any curves, you're gonna have to snip. You're gonna have to snip the curves and then fan it out on the back and staple. And we wanna staple just past where we had the batting. So this will cover up the batting. Now, like I said, I only had 3 yards of fabric, which is really cutting it close. So some of these edges, I'm just gonna have to trim away the batting because there's no way I'm gonna be able to get the fabric to cover it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with my curves. And don't trim too close because you want to make sure that it doesn't fray. Your fabric will pull and stretch. All right, so you'll want to keep some pliers handy. Work with the fabric. Don't force it. If you force it, then you're going to have some weird wrinkles. So have pliers handy so you can edit, undo. All right, so that is all thoroughly stapled. I'm going to go through with my hammer and just, my hand was getting really tired with the staples, so some of them aren't as into the wood as I would like. So I'm going to go through with a hammer, tack those down, and then trim off the excess fabric and batting. Now to trim off all of the excess. Try to do this as neat as possible. You can go about a ½ inch next to your staples. So everything's all cleaned up, stapled. You can be done if you want. But if you wanted to really make it look super professional, there are these special tack strips that you can put down on the curves that latch onto the fabric. You hammer those down, you hammer the fabric in it, and then you staple down the edge. I'm not gonna go through that. I've got them somewhere, but it's my headboard in my room. I don't really care. This looks pretty neat compared to my old headboard. So now I'm gonna get ready to, I'm gonna prep it for mounting. As you may have noticed, I did not do any legs. Our last one we did legs and they were over-engineered, and through a couple different moves they have snapped, and I wasn't able to really get the headboard the height that I wanted because the legs needed to sit on the ground. And anyway, so I am just going to do a French cleat. I have a 30-inch French cleat. Show that to you. This is, so 30 inches long. It's rated for 300 pounds. This thing maybe weighs 50. And if you're not familiar with French cleats, these are awesome. So you have one piece that screws onto your object, so your picture frame, or in our case, our headboard, and the other piece screws onto the wall, and it's just this nice little click into action, and all of a sudden your stuff is hung. It's pretty good stuff, and it's very sturdy. So I'm going to utilize our pre-drilled points, because those are square, to mark from the center. I'm going to need 30 inches. Using the screws provided, I'm going to get this attached. Now to go put this on the wall by my bed. All right, so I've moved my bed and half the bed frame out of the way. My bed is about 11 inches tall, actually 12. So I measured up 11 inches because I want the headboard to go past the bed a little bit. Measured up 11 inches from the bed frame, and then 24 inches from there, which is where I have the French cleat. That's where it needs to sit. So I have my French cleat screwed into my headboard and measured up the wall and centered where it needs to be on the wall, and have that screwed in using a combination of the screws that they sent. That I was able to make it into 2 studs, and then I have some 50-pound, I'm not sure where I put them, 50-pound metal drywall anchors, and put those in 3 of the other places. So now let's get the headboard finally. I'm so excited. And there you have it. Headboard's installed. You can scoot it left and right as needed. It's installed with a French cleat. It looks amazing. I'm so excited. So the only thing left to do on the headboard is I need to get some buttons. You can get covered button kits from the store. I hate doing those with upholstery fabrics. So there is, check this out. She's already breaking it in. Woo! That's one of their favorite things to do is climb our headboard. So there's this little shop, upholstery shop in downtown St. Louis that I'll bring him my scraps of fabric. He's got a die that will cut the right size circle, and then he's got an arbor press to make the buttons. Super easy. I think it costs me like $1/4 a button, worth every penny. I need like 20 or so buttons. So I'll get that done, and then when I get those, I will choose shankless, which means it doesn't have the little loop on the back, so it's just flat, and just hot glue them into the tufted points, which is also part of the reason why we bored the holes. That makes these points a little wider and more hollow, and then it's done. Okay, so I just got back from the upholstery shop where I had my buttons made. I needed 25, so I got 30 to be safe. And they didn't have shankless ones, so I got just the regular loop and went through with some pliers and cut off the loops. Pretty easy. This was so much easier than trying to get like a do-it-yourself button cover kit. It took the guy maybe 15 minutes to do all these, cost me a whopping $12, and they are actually made for upholstery, so they're strong and sturdy and they're not going to pop apart. He has a special die cut machine that cuts the circles. And then he has another pressing machine that presses them into the button molds. It was really cool. So to attach these, like I said, I cut off the shanks. I have the shankless ones and some hot glue. I'm going to stick some hot glue right into the hole and a little bit onto my button. And just carefully shove that right in. And it's going to glue onto the screw. And we're done. So then just repeat that 25 times. It's gonna be fun.